Okay, let's talk about how to start with the painting. What I have done right now is coated our MDF board, that is a panel, with gesso with some amount of burnt umber mixed into the gesso. So what I have done here is I have coated our MDF panel, the canvas, with artist gesso along with some burnt umber. We do not have a complete white background. So if you want to know how I do the gesso coating and the preparation of panel, basically I'll leave a link to the video on the top right corner where I've explained the entire process of how I apply the gesso onto the panel. So before we start, I have with the help of a mechanical pencil, you can use any pencil. I have sketched out the outline of what I want to do. So this is a Mediterranean setup where we have the stairs made of rocks. There is a building. There are a couple of buildings in the background. We have a mountain, and then there is a sea here. Along with that, the sky is very vibrant with large clouds here. So how do you decide where to start with the painting? Like I have mentioned in my previous paintings also, we always start with the farthest point, which in our case is the sky. Now, even to start painting the sky, we have to identify the major spots where there are color differences. For instance, in our case, I'll show the completed painting on the corner, so you can take a reference of how the color differs, right? So on this part there is a high contrast color. The blue is bit contrasty as compared to this side because sun is shining from this end. So this corner and the corner which is close to the sea would be much lighter compared to this. So we'll mix a corner, both the corners, and this one will mix the colors, and then we'll apply the coat to it. Okay, so let me show you how to mix the colors. I'll start by mixing the colors for this part of the sky, which is fairly contrasty and fairly vibrant. I'm going to take these two colors, cobalt blue and French ultramarine. Let us try to mix that shade. I'm taking both the colors a tiny bit. I want something in between for this part. That's the reason I'm mixing these two colors. So I have taken liquid original, so the colors dry faster than usual. I'll take cobalt blue. The sky color is in fact closer to cobalt blue, more closer than the French ultramarine. So I'll take a little bit of French ultramarine. I think we might have to add a bit of zinc white as well. Because zinc white is a transparent white, it will not overpower the color. So I still want this color to be vibrant. So I'll take a little bit of zinc white. Now I think we are pretty close to the color which I'm looking for. Let's try it and add it on the sky now. To the same mix, I have added a little bit of ivory black because I wanted the colors to be a bit toned down and dark as well. So I'm going to add that color as is. You can use pretty much any brush. I'm using the round brush size 2. I'm taking a larger brush now, size 2 flat brush, so that we can cover larger area and quickly. I made the outline here for the clouds, but I'm going to paint over it and paint the clouds later on, because I think if I leave out the space for the clouds now, I think I will lose the harmony. So I'm going to paint over it and then add the clouds later on. Now I'm going to take a round brush size 10 to smoothen this out. Because this is a clear sky, the transition has to be seamless. and try to make it as smooth as possible. So I've added more titanium white to the same mix to make this side of the sky a bit lighter. I'll keep on adding titanium white because I don't have to worry about the color being opaque and overpowering the blue. So I'm just adding the color at this point, and I'm not trying to make this the transition smoother. I'll do it later on. Right now, it's only putting the color onto the canvas. I don't think I have used cobalt blue ever in any of my previous paintings. If ever there was a use for cobalt blue, I think it is for the Mediterranean skies. If someone from Mediterranean region is watching, please let me know if you can relate on how vibrant the skies are in those regions. Again, I'm using the same size 10 round brush to smoothen these parts. Just do this zigzag movements with very light touch onto the paint. Because the paint, both the colors are still wet, you should be easily able to blend them. This brush is especially made for water and poster colors. That's why the bristles are really soft. So you'll get a very nice blend from bottom to top. Just make sure you do not leave any kind of pattern in between. That's all. Okay, coming to the bottom part of the sky, I have added titanium white to the same mix, but I have also added a tiny bit of ivory black because as you go down, there is atmospheric depth and there are clouds as well. So that will be, as you go further, it will be a bit darker, and at the same time, you lose the vibrance of color. That's the reason the ivory black will tone down the blue. Also, it will give the feel of atmospheric depth. With the same size 10 round brush to blend these two colors, and then I'll wipe the brush because when I go to the lighter areas, I don't want the darker shades to again form patterns. So when you go from lighter area to the darker area, and once you come back, you wipe the brush. This area will anyways be covered with clouds, so we don't have to bother too much about that. If you see, I'm kind of just pushing the color up slowly. At some point, it will just blend in naturally. Okay, for the clouds, I have taken zinc white, cobalt blue, titanium white, and ivory black. I've taken liquid fine detail. We'll work on two parts, the the shadow areas in the clouds and the highlights. To start with the shadows, we will mix a quite transparent color because we want the sky to be seen in at some places. So I'm going to mix along with liquid fine detail. I'm going to mix cobalt blue and zinc white. Remember, I'm not adding titanium white because titanium white is very opaque color. To this mix, I'm going to add ivory black to make it a bit darker and warm at the same time. This color will not be this vibrant, so I'm going to add some more ivory black to tone it down, and then to make it lighter we'll keep adding zinc white until we get the desired color. You don't have to stick to the way I mix the paint. My way of mixing paint with a brush is not really traditional, so this is the way I like it, but you keep following your style. This demonstration is only to show you how to mix the right color or the right value. I think this looks about right. With the same brush, round brush size 2, I'm going to apply the color we mixed right now onto the canvas. We'll make sure there are some spots where the sky is visible through the color, and the rest of them will just dab spots of color. We can be really random when we are painting cloud. That's the most interesting part of painting clouds. We don't have to mimic the exact shape from the reference. hold your brush loose towards the end of it, because when you're holding it here, you tend to make the shapes very definitive. So it's better to hold it towards the end and keep the brush really loose between your fingers, and just make random shapes and concentrate on shapes where you want to make them pop up. We are not focusing on the highlights at all at this point in time. We are only concentrating on the shadow part of the cloud. There is a big chunk of cloud here. The important thing which you have to focus on is that the light is hitting from this side, and all the sides of the cloud facing this side would be receiving the highlights. So that is the only thing we have to consider, and keep on painting the shadow areas. This color might look very light as compared to the background, but when we paint the highlight, you will see that that would be much lighter. If you see, it has gotten really worn out, and this really helps in uh, creating random shapes. That's why don't throw away your old brushes. These come in handy when you are painting clouds or anything random, and these are very cheap brushes. As we come down here, the clouds will have more shadow. So to make it a bit more darker and warm, I've added ivory black into the mix. I think I'm going to use a larger brush now. Maybe I'll use this size 10 round brush. I'm not sure yet, but let me try. It covers a larger area. So I found that the color here, which we mixed earlier, is too vibrant for area where there's a lot of cloud. So I have mixed cobalt blue, bit of French ultramarine, and titanium white, along with a little bit of ivory black to make this color, which is bit toned down. Okay. Also, it will help us because this color has already dried. This will help us blend in better with the shadow part of the cloud. So let us try that. It's okay to make mistakes, right? Like I have done, you can paint over it. That's the beauty of using oil paint or acrylics. With the same color used in this part of the sky, I'm going to make small cloud formations here. These are very far away in distance, also very transparent color. Now that we're done with the shadow, let us start painting the midtones. I have still kept the paint pretty transparent, and we're going to add the values in all the areas other than highlights. We have kept the paint transparent, but the shadows will still show. I think it's too light. Let me add some ivory black to the mix. I'm still using uh, round brush size 2. The thing we have to be careful about is not going into the territory of shadows. We don't want to make that any lighter. It's fine if you go into the highlights, because we are anyways going to add some lighter color later on. With very little paint on the brush, I'm just making random shapes, but very light on the canvas. I'm not pushing it hard. We don't want it to be too smooth and colors mixed and merged. We want some random shapes as well, so that the clouds, look realistic. I have very little paint on the brush. I'm making use of the texture which has been created from the um, co- last coat and the surface as well, because we have applied gesso and run the sponge roller on top of it. That creates a kind of texture, and that texture really helps here. If you want to watch the video on how I apply the gesso, I'll leave the link on top right. I have made a video on that. Can you see this mix is suddenly looking a lot warmer, right? You might think I've added some yellow color or some shades of brown, but what I have done really is added ivory black, and you see the difference it makes. It's bringing out all the warmer midtones in the cloud, and this will help in giving that 3D look. Now I have added some more titanium white, and with a swirling motion we'll add it only to the left side of the shadows, because the sunlight is hitting from this side. We'll only add this color to the left side of the clouds with a swirling motion, so that it creates a kind of cloudy texture. It's okay if you make mistakes, because clouds don't stay in same formation, they keep on changing, and it's always random. Again, it's not bright white yet. The more tones you add, the better it will look. Instead of adding the white directly, we'll keep it for the extreme end. It creates a lot of depth. I'm only creating swirls. Again, like I mentioned in the beginning, hold your brush very loose and towards the end of it. Now we'll paint the extreme highlights. Again, I have added titanium white, and with the same brush, taken very little paint, and then with the same swirl motion, we'll add the white to extreme left. We have to be very careful to not overdo this color. There are two sets of mountains. One is nearer to the scene, and for which there is only small pot visible behind the building. And at the distance, there are another set of mountains here, right beside the sea. Now when we mix the colors will have different vibrance, because whatever is nearer to us will have more vibrance in color and more saturation as compared to whatever is in the distance. Also, the amount of green varies. Let us say on the mountains, if there are trees, so the mountain which is nearer to us will have more green, and as it goes away into the distance to the farthest point, we need to add blue in the colors, because with the atmospheric depth the blue becomes more prevalent as it goes away from the eyesight. Okay, let me show you how to mix the color for the mountain that is nearer to us. This is only small patch, so I'm going to mix only small colors. So I'm going to take up green along with a bit of ivory black, because I want to make it a bit grayer. The mountain is not very near to us, it is still at a distance. Add some more white. This is titanium white, by the way, kind of grayish green, and this is not the mid tone, this is just the shadow. We'll add some mid tone on top of it. I'm using a size 1 round brush, because this pot is very small. The smaller brushes will help here. I'm dabbing with my brush to create that uneven texture, because there are a lot of trees in a distance, and we are anyways going to cover most of it with the mid tone and the highlights. To the same mix, I added bit of titanium white and cadmium yellow to create this kind of highlights. We'll randomly add it on top of this. Now for these mountains, the color will mix the color from this end, which is closer to our scene, and gradually tone it down to the extreme end. Let me show you how I mix the color. So I'm going to take French ultramarine with a bit of medium and white, and we'll darken this color with ivory black. Also, this will help tone down the color. Let me add some more ivory black. I think we have the right color. Let's start at this area here. So I've added titanium white to the same mix, a bit of black to tone the color down. We add some more titanium white for the extreme end. We'll clean the brush and run over the edges to make it softer because the mountains are at a distance. They're very far away. With the same lighter color, will make some strokes at the contours. You have to add a different color here, but then I'll just mark it. Because these are all the areas where sunlight is hitting on the mountains, they have to be in a different, brighter, more vibrant color as compared to the rest of the mountains. Now, for the places where the sunlight is hitting, they might look greener to you from the distance, but the color exactly which we have to mix for it is to the same mix. I'm going to add a bit of yellow ochre, and to tone it down, I'm going to take ivory black, which will tone down the color, and I'll add more yellow ochre to the mix and titanium white. I think I'll add a bit of burnt umber to the mix, and I need titanium white as well. Let's make it light. Some more burnt umber. I think this is about the right color. Because the color here is predominantly blue, anything warmer right next to it would start looking like green. So that's the trick in mixing the distant mountains. Though the color is not green, if you mix anything warmer than the predominant blue, it will look like we are painting distant trees. With the same size one round brush, I'm going to apply only the highlights where sunlight is hitting. For the sea here, it's predominantly cobalt blue along with only a little bit of French abdomen.
Feel it's hopeless when you think that you lost. Oh, I will take your hand and we'll rise up from the dust. Oh, here we go, go, go. Let us heal and grow. You won't be alone. We're unstoppable. Don't be afraid to show what we're going for. This is what we know. Here we come back to life. We're still breathing, standing up. Everybody's gonna see it. Oh, all you need to know is that we're holding on. Even if we fall, we will rise up.
Moving on to the next part of our painting, the main object, that is this building. The sunlight is directly hitting onto this part of the building. So this color would be very light as compared to this part where this part would be under the shadows. So we'll have to mix two colors, one for this part and the second the highlight here. But then there is one more color which is under the roof over here where the shadow of roof would fall on this part of the building. This color would be slightly lighter as compared to this one. So we will mix all these three, starting with the shadow part. I want to start here so that we can gradually add titanium white to make this part of the building. I have taken the medium liquid fine detail, and I'm going to start with burnt sienna. This is a really powerful color, so you have to be very careful about the amount of color you're taking. So I'm going to add a bit of burnt umber as well, and I have taken zinc white, not the titanium white. Remember, titanium white is a very opaque color. Okay, I forgot to add the ivory black. Okay, now I'm thinking I'll take some alizarin crimson also. I need a bit of a red tinge to the paint on that building. This looks about right. To tone down the red bit, I'll add some burnt sienna and some more burnt umber. Let me start from this corner. I'm still using the size 1 round brush.
You won't be alone. We're unstoppable. Don't be afraid too sure what we're going for. This is what we know. Here we come back to life, we're still breathing. Standing up, everybody's gonna see it. Oh, all you need to know is that we're holding on. Even if we fall, we will rise up and we follow the path that we believe in. No, we're not gonna stop until we reach it. All you need to know is that we're holding on. We rise up from the dust and claim our freedom.
We can leave it at this and proceed to the other sections. But if we have to make it look a bit more realistic, then we'll have to spend some time on it. So I'm going to create some patches on the wall. This step you can skip if you don't want to, but then these irregularities helps in creating a realistic look in any painting. So I have added French ultramarine to the same mix, a lot of it, so that it will overpower the color underneath. So I will create some random spots on the wall. Just some random spots. Some here beneath this window. Ideally, I should have waited for the paint underneath to dry and then apply it on top of it. That would be a better approach to creating spots on top of the wall. There are some plants or bushes in this area. I have basically mixed ivory black with French ultramarine and a bit of yellow. So it will not be exactly green because it is in the shadow. Only the part of the plant or the bushes which receive sunlight will be green because it is in shadow. And the green part will add on top of it. Coming to the highlight, I have added titanium white along with cadmium yellow, and will only highlight the part where the plants receive sunlight. With some more cadmium yellow and titanium white, we have this color, and we'll add it to the extreme highlights. I'm using the corner of this brush to dab small patches. We have to be very careful not to overdo this, otherwise our entire piece will lose its originality. Let us paint this side of the building where the sunlight is directly hitting. To the same mix where we painted the shadow of the building, I have added a lot of titanium white. So what I'm doing is I'm resting my pinky on this or the little finger on the canvas where there is no paint for the support, because we have to make this straight line. You could use a ruler as well, but I prefer doing it freehand. I don't want lines to be very straight in the painting. Somehow that look gives a better look. I'll apply the same color to the whole area, and then we can add little variations and details as such. This can be the base coat for further detailing. So we had applied the base coat to the side of the building where the sunlight is directly shining on. On top of that, we will add some more titanium white and make this really bright. I have taken titanium white along with little bit of burnt sienna and yellow ochre to give that yellow tinge, and mixed with it the liquid fine detail to make it bit thinner. I'll apply patches of this white, and then I'll clean my brush to merge it. It's cobalt blue, French ultramarine, and a bit of titanium white, along with a little bit of ivory black for the windows. Again, like I mentioned earlier, we need ivory black to tone down the color. Otherwise, they would be so vibrant and that it would pop up. With the same color I mixed for the window doors. Okay, for the grill here on the balcony, I'm using a size 4/0 fine detail brush, and the color I have mixed in is basically gray along with a bit of brown, burnt umber, and a lot of fine detail. So it's going to be very thin paint. With this brush, I'm going to make some vertical lines first. Let's paint a bunch of plants in front of this building. Sap green with a lot of ivory black. We're putting this very dark at this point so that we can add on top of it the midtones and highlights later on. I'll cover this entire bit with the same paint because even in this area there are a lot of small plants. So this bunch of plants will start them with the same color as a base. As we draw closer in the scene, the darks will become much darker. So in the base of this bunch of plants, I'm going to add more ivory black to the same mix. And then gradually when we go up, we will lighten the color according to the scene. I have taken sap green along with cadmium yellow and a little bit of titanium white. So we will dab in this color. Now coming to the highlights, I'm going to use this hog brush. If you see, its bristles are really spread, and this will help in creating uneven texture for the highlights. The same mix which we use for mid-tone, I have added some more titanium white and cadmium yellow. And with this brush, will not take a lot of color and will slightly dab. You have to be very careful. Sometimes you see this, sometimes it creates a kind of botch while using this brush. For the flowers now, I have mixed cadmium red, cadmium yellow, and yellow ochre. With this, we will just make random shapes. Okay, let me add some titanium white to the mix to make the color opaque. Otherwise, the color was really transparent and it would not pop up. Let's create these random shapes now for flowers. I'm touching the corner of this brush. Once you take the paint onto the brush, you push the brush into the palette, which will create this flat shape of the brush, and then just touch the corner of the brush onto the canvas. We'll change the color now. Let us take yellow color as well, just to make it look random. So I'm going to take cadmium yellow along with titanium white, and let us put this color also. It is important to divide any section of a painting you are starting with into different clear sections so that you can attempt them one by one. So this particular area of rocks, I'm going to divide them into three sections. One would be the lines between the rocks, which I have earlier sketched with a pencil. we'll paint these lines between the rocks. That will be first part. The next part would be the shadows, the entire section where the sunlight is not falling, and then the third section would be the highlights where the sunlight is falling on the surface. So we will divide them into three sections, and later on, once all these three sections are painted, we will start adding the details to make it look real. Let's start with the section where we will paint all the lines between the rocks. And for this, I have mixed ivory black, burnt umber, and burnt sienna with liquid fine detail so that it's really thin, not very thick. And slowly we start adding these lines.
You're the night sky trying to make me see your stars. But the dark gets lonely. Now I see violet, I can feel silence. And the dark's all that I see. When your stars have burnt toast, and your heart makes no sound. I'll find violet in your eyes. You'll always be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. Be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. You're the night sky hiding behind dark gray clouds. I can't figure you out now. I see your blue.
Okay, let's move on to painting the stairs now. We'll divide this entire bit of stairs into two parts. One is shadow and highlights. We will mix the colors for shadows first, paint it, and then the highlights. So the drawing which I have done earlier, the sketch, will help in this case. We'll put in the colors there, and later on we'll add the details. For the shadows, I have mixed French ultramarine, ivory black, and alizarin crimson to make this a bit kind of purple, and then I've added titanium white to make it lighter wherever needed. And wherever there are these darker patches, I have added some more alizarin crimson to it, and also ivory black. I know I said we'll do the details later on, but then sometimes I feel tempted to do it, and that's fine. Let's continue with the rest of the shadows. We are still in the zone of blues and purple at this point. As we move forward to the scene where there is more light that is caught by the shadows, then those shadows will be warmer. So we'll have to slowly transition from more bluer to more warmer color like burnt sienna. This part here looks still vibrant and warm, which it should not be. We'll correct that later on. When we mix this warmer color, I'll correct this part as well. I want to show you these mistakes because these are bound to happen when you start painting. So it's fine. You need not worry about that. If there is a mistake later on, even later on in the painting, you can correct it. Sometimes the mistakes won't be very apparent, and when you start mixing colors adjacent to it, then you start noticing that, oh yeah, so there's something wrong about that part. I hope I'm able to convey what I mean. Okay, with the introduction of sunlight here, this stairs onward, the sunlight directly starts falling on the stairs, and we need to start introducing warmer color. So to the same mix, I have added burnt sienna to make it a bit warmer. So we'll start adding those colors in patches. I'll add some of it in this and then start adding these colors next step onwards. If you're wondering, I'm still using the size
You're the
1
night
round
sky
brush.
trying to make me see your stars. But the dark gets lonely. Now I see violet, I can feel silence. And the dark's all that I see. When your stars have burnt toast, and your heart makes no sound. I'll find valid in your eyes. You'll always be my night sky. Be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. You're the night sky hiding behind dark gray clouds. I can't figure you out now. I see all blue. There is so
Okay,
much cold
let me
in
show you how to paint foliages. There are bunch of plants with flowers here. One is on the left and on the right. Now, to start with, we would put in the base colors, and I'll show you how to mix those colors. I have I will take a lot of liquid fine detail, and we are going to make a really thin base color for the shadow parts. Whatever detail we build up will be on top of it. So I have taken sap green into liquid fine detail, and I will take a lot of ivory black into the same mix. We're going to make this really dark, but at the same time very thin. And liquid fine detail will help in drying the color fast, so that we can apply the details on top of it as soon as it is dry. Okay, let me show you how to put these colors. Starting from the bottom or the darkest part, we'll just dab in. I'm using a size 1 round brush. You can use any brush for this mat. For this, going to just dab this color. This is really dark green. I will flash the completed painting somewhere here on the right, that you can see how the completed foliage looks. Just dab, don't worry about detailing at all, at least not in the shadows. And as we move closer to the area where sunlight is shining, I have added titanium white along with lemon yellow to the same mix, so that we will make the color bit lighter. I'm just dabbing with this color. This is the base for us to start adding detail in the next step. So I'll do the same thing on this part of foliage. Now, while this base coat is drying, we will apply the base coat to this building here. So I'll be mixing burnt sienna along with a little bit of ivory black and a lot of titanium white to make this base coat for the building. Before we apply the base coat, let us create all these lines here, all these shadows within the building. So let us first create that and then apply the base coat.
You're the night sky trying to make me see your stars. But the dark gets lonely. Now I see violet, I can feel silence. And the dark's all that I see. When your stars have burnt out, and your heart makes no sound. I'll find valid in your eyes. You'll always be my night sky. Be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. You're the night sky hiding behind dark gray clouds.
Moving on to painting the flowers, I have mixed cadmium red, cadmium yellow, alizarin crimson, and titanium white to make it opaque. With a size 1 round brush, I'm going to dab in wherever we see there are flowers. If you see, I'm rotating the brush in my hand to make it look like a flower. We will make random shapes, some small, some larger size. Just to add some variations, I'll add cadmium yellow, some yellowish flowers in between. Because it is at a distance, the size of the flowers will be smaller as well.
You'll always be my night sky. Ha, ha. Be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. You're the night sky hiding behind dark gray clouds. I can't figure you out now. I see all blue. There is so much cold.
Thank you so much for watching the video till the end. I'll see you in the next one. Please subscribe to my channel and click on this video if you'd like to watch a landscape painting.